Shalom and Maranatha. Welcome to the Septuagint versus the Masoretic, the only ministry of its kind that looks at the truth of the scriptures, looking at the Septuagint, which is the version of scriptures that existed before Jesus Christ came in the flesh, which is around 200 years before he was born, and the Masoretic text, which was only fully finalized into the form we know it today as it exists 1,000 years after Christ became flesh. So we're starting a new book. We finished the Torah, and now we're into Joshua, the book of Joshua, chapter 1, 18 verses. And we're going to see the first difference starts in verse 4, which is a continuous difference. We've noticed it in the previous book, Deuteronomy. It says here Antilibanus, which is defining the borders of this promised land, versus Lebanon, unto Lebanon. So the Anti-Lebanon Mountains, or Antilibanus, is the border which is between Syria and Lebanon. It is a 150 kilometer range. This is not Lebanon itself, which is 10,452 square kilometer range. So this is a big discrepancy if you are looking at it from a real world land ownership perspective. As well, we have the river Euphrates as far as the extremity of the sea. So what is the extremity of the sea? In the Masoretic, it calls it the Great River. The word in Hebrew, the terminology being used, is Yam Suph, the literal meaning of the word extremity of the sea. It is often wrongly translated as Red Sea. Actually, it is more accurately translated as extremity of the sea, as we read here in the Septuagint. In Hebrew, Yam means sea. Suph means end or hinder part, which, when you translate it again, literally is extremity of the sea. Where's this Yam Suph? Let's look at the Greek first. Erythra Thalassa means Red Sea. The extremity of the sea specifically is referring to the Gulf of Aqaba, which is on the eastern side of the Sinai Peninsula. I'm going to show that to you in a little bit. It is not the western side of the Sinai Peninsula, which would be the lakes and marshes north of the Gulf of the Suez. So I know this. I didn't know this previously, but I only am familiar with this knowledge because of the book Mount Sinai in Arabia by Joel Richardson. I'm thankful for his books. Very helpful. Versus the Great Sea. So again, the Great Sea, which is popularly identified as the Mediterranean Sea. So I'm going to show you this picture. So this is just expanded a little bit there. It's the Mediterranean, so it wouldn't make sense for Israel to be the border to be all of that. But this is where the Yam Suph is, the Gulf of Aqaba, just on the eastern side of the Sinai Peninsula. So that's the border. Not this area. That's not the border. So it's actually right here, and we can see, I think modern Israel is around here. So that's the border. It wouldn't be there. It wouldn't make sense because it would then be cut off here. And then you have what is known classically as the Red Sea, which is not what it is talking about here. Okay, so we're going to close that and move on. Okay, I'm having a bit of trouble just shrinking this window down. Okay, so continuing on. Okay, so I showed you the picture in the tab. So next we have verse 5, neglect versus forsake. That's like a memory verse. A lot of people like to quote that. I will not fail you or forsake you. I will not fail you or neglect you. Be strong and quit yourself like a man. That's a Hebrew idiom. It is also translated in English as be strong and of good courage. So what is this Hebrewism? It means do not be cowardly. Grow up. Be a man. I know grow up sounds a little harsh. Be mighty. It relates to girding up your loins like a man. That's another Hebrewism. So gird up now your loins like a man of valor, that girds on his harness for battle. So the modern vernacular that is closest to this is roll up your sleeves in order to fight. On Reddit, I read a comment saying a long sleeve shirt with the cuffs unbuttoned will restrict your motion as you twist and bend the joint in your arms. But if you roll up your sleeves, it prevents this. It is also a trope. It is a way to visually tell any spectators and audience or an audience that this guy is seriously getting ready to fight. You know, when someone takes their shirt off or whatever it is to restrict anything, to remove any restrictions to their movement. We have other modern visuals where we have athletes or basketball players specifically removing their tearaways, revealing the shorts they're ready to play and give it their all and move faster. Verse 7, we see a significant difference here is wise, the word wise. You may be wise versus you may prosper. It doesn't mean that you'll always prosper, but being wise will help you even in hard situations where you may not technically be prospering. Verse 8, know how to do all the things that are written in it, in the law. So this is learning how to do. It could be an ongoing process, could be that. It's not just doing it once and doing it perfectly like a Mary Sue or a Johnny whatever. Johnny Sue, if there's such a word. Johnny Perfect. Versus to observe to do all that is according to all that is written therein. So it by meditating in the law day and night, and speaking of it, you will learn to know how to do these things. But if you continue to meditate and speak of it, then you may observe to do it. Well, it's not just that you get it perfectly. I think it's something you continually learn and grow in. Maybe you are doing it rightly, but you don't really understand the deep spiritual meanings to everything you're doing. Maybe you're just doing it in a physical sense, you're doing that right, but you're not learning it as you grow in your relationship with your Creator. There's an omission here, then shall you prosper. So in this specific section, this part here, Yah is the one prospering Joshua. It's not Joshua prospering himself. It is Yah doing it, and make your ways prosperous. So you will be blessed, you'll be prospered, and your ways will be prospered by yourself as well. But ultimately it's Yah who is the source of prosperity. And then you be wise, and then you will be wise. Versus you shall have good success. So these are different metrics to measure success. Lo, similar to our modern yo. The purpose of that word is to call attention to. Yo, lo, have I not commanded you? In the Masoretic. So this could be read as sarcastic and patronizing. Be strong and courageous. Be not cowardly nor fearful. A little more expanding on what that means. Versus be not afraid, neither be you dismayed. So I'm going to show you a clip from Deep Down. Okay, so this is what I picture when I picture someone being brave and courageous. Is this scene right here. Okay, so that's that clip. So I hope that is inspirational in terms of being a man, being courageous. That's what I picture. Someone holding a shield in the face of the flames of tribulation. In this case, a dragon literally breathing fire on a night. So we don't usually do visuals, but I thought that would be helpful to get an inspiring visual of what that means. Be strong and courageous. Quit you like a man. Be a man. Or be strong and of good courage, as it is popularly rendered in the King James. Verse 10, we see scribes versus officers. So these are the scribes being commanded to command the people. So scribes are usually people who are writing the texts, the Torah, or they are people who are literate. They are the upper class who have the ability to read and write. Not everyone was literate in that time. Perhaps in Israel they were. I'm just making an assumption. I don't know if all were or parts of them were not. Most likely they were learning a early form of Hebrew. Versus the officers. So we can see that even scribes have a position of authority in that civilization. In verse 14, we see another significant difference, which is in the land which he has given you. So the land being described as being given by Yah, he has given you, not in the Masoretic that Moses gave you. It's not Moses who gave them this land, it's Yah who gave them the land. And they're supposed to go before their brethren well armed. Not just armed, but well armed. You're going to be very prepared because you are going to need courage. Every one of you who is strong. It's not all the mighty men of valor like some Justice League or some kind of, elite fighting force. It's every one of you who is strong, and you shall fight on their side and help them in the Masoretic as it's rendered. So that admonition to be strong and of good courage makes more sense now, because any one of you who is qualified, who is strong enough, will fight. You need to be well armed. So if you're going to go into battle, you can't be cowardly. That's the context of this admonition. Verse 15, depart each one to his inheritance versus to the land of your possession. They're not going back somewhere else. They're staying in that promised land, their inheritance. Verse 17, we see an omission of only let Yah our Elohim be with you versus only Yah your Elohim be with you. So again, they're taking ownership of Yah. They're saying it's our Elohim, and only let him be with you. So we don't know if he will be with you, but let him be with you. It's like good wishes. You're wishing somebody good that they will prosper well. Versus only Yah your Elohim be with you. So there's less ownership there. It's saying that's your Elohim, not ours. And they're not assuming that he will be with Joshua, but here we can see that they do wish him success, that he would lead them and be as he was with Moses, Yah will be with Joshua as he was with Moses. The last verse here, 18, disobey. Whoever shall disobey versus rebel. Rebel is just outright disobedience. However, disobeying is not to the same level. Rebelliousness is very stalwart, just completely rebellious. Downright rebellious. It's just utter contempt. Whereas disobeying could be done out of ignorance. There's a lot of leeway there. But let him die. let him die, the one who disobeys you, versus he shall be put to death. So we see the difference there, that they are taking into their hands this capital punishment done in a communal way, versus let him die could be communal, could be individual, could be done through a judge, but the penalty is death. So that's all for this chapter. Just wanted to continue the momentum I had going into from this Day of Atonement. So thank you very much for your time. This is the book of Joshua. We're in chapter 1. We just finished chapter 1, and we've got 24 chapters. We got 23 to go, and we're going to keep going forward into Judges, Ruth, Samuel, or I should say the books of the kings, because they weren't called Samuel back then. And Chronicles is going to be a bit laborious, but we'll see how that goes. Tends to be a lot of repetition and begat who and begat who. And then, we're just on our way. And then I think it's going to be very interesting once we get to Job, Psalms, Proverbs. There's huge differences there. Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, and then to the prophets, and then closing out with Micah, or Malachi, I should say. And then we'll see if we can get to the Apocrypha. It's in my heart to do that as well. I don't know if there's any differences there, or it might just be a study of the Apocrypha. And then after that, the New Testament. So thank you very much for your time, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, this is the Masoretic, or the Septuagint versus the Masoretic channel. May God bless you all and make your way prosperous. And Shalom and Maranatha. Till next time, we'll look at Joshua chapter 2.